Spain has a rich history and a complicated economic story. It went from being a major problem during a European money crisis to a strong economic country. But then something terrible happened in 2020, and it became the worst performing advanced economy. People often make Spain's economic problems sound too simple. Before the big recession, Spain's government spending was steady, but there was a big problem. A dangerous real estate bubble was about to burst. So here's the big question. Why did Spain's debt become way bigger than its whole economy? How did the real estate bubble get so huge? And did Spain's economy get better afterward? And if it did, how? To understand these questions, we need to look at Spain's past. After the Spanish Civil War ended in 1939, Spain was in bad shape and very cut off from the rest of the world. This is very different from how popular Spain is now for tourists being one of the top destinations. During the early rule of General Franco, Spain had policies that kept it isolated and slowed down its recovery and growth. Spain wasn't part of the Marshall Plan, a big US program that helped European countries after World War II. It took until 1955 for Spain to get its economy back to where it was before the Civil War, which was slower than many other countries in Europe. Over time, Franco's approach to running the economy changed. Initially, Spain tried to be self-sufficient, but by the late 1950s, it was running out of foreign money, a problem caused by staying too isolated. So the government started a new plan called the Plan of Stabilization and Liberalization. Despite the plain name, this plan kick-started what people call the Spanish economic miracle. Spain began growing fast and becoming more modern, even though it was still under Franco's strict control. After General Franco's time, Spain started joining the global market more actively. Spanish products and brands became well known around the world. This change helped Spain become a part of the European Union, EU, back then called the European Economic Community in 1986. But even with this growth, Spain had a big problem with too many people not having jobs during the 80s and 90s. If you are enjoying this content, please throw a like and subscribe to this channel for more exciting content like this. In 1999, Spain made a big decision to start using the euro, the common currency in many European countries. This was an important step, showing that Spain was really part of the European economy. But this decision had its downsides. Spain couldn't control its own currency value or interest rates anymore. The good part was that trading with other countries in Europe became easier, and it was easier to buy things from abroad. Also, Spain could borrow money at lower interest rates, which was really important for its economy. During this time of big changes, Spain's economy went through a lot. The country was having trouble with its trade and money flow. Even before Spain started using the euro, it was spending more money than it was making from trade. This got worse just before the big economic crisis hit. This kind of situation is common when economies go down because countries buy less from abroad and it's harder to get loans from other countries. There was also a big issue with how easy it was to get loans. When Spain adopted the euro, it made borrowing money cheaper. Investors started to think that lending money to Spain was as safe as lending to stronger economies like Germany. This made more people want to lend money to Spain, and interest rates got more similar across different countries. A lot of people think it was the Spanish government that borrowed a lot of money, like what happened in Greece, but that really wasn't the case in Spain. The Spanish government actually had low debt and was even saving money before the crisis. So who was borrowing all this money? It was mainly private companies, especially those building houses and buildings. A lot of the money borrowed in Spain was through local savings banks that worked with international markets. Spain is divided into 17 areas, each managing its own things like taxes, schools, and hospitals. Before the big economic crisis, Spain had about 45 of these local banks, and many of them were lending a lot of money for building projects that were a bit risky. Spain tried to be ready for any debt problems when it switched to using the euro. An EU report said that Spain was the first country to make banks save extra money for loans that might not get paid back during good times. This was a smart move, but it wasn't enough to stop the problems that were coming. In the early 2000s, house prices in Spain went up really fast. This was happening in many places, but it was a big deal in Spain because its economy depended so much on building things. The amount of money borrowed for building houses and buildings was much more than in other parts of the economy. When the big global financial crisis hit, caused by people not being able to pay their home loans in the United States, Spain's debt from real estate, like houses and buildings, became almost half of what the whole country's economy was worth. A lot of people in Spain, more than 1 in every 8 workers, had jobs in construction, building more houses than in Germany, France, the UK, and Italy all put together. The big boom in Spain's housing and building sector happened for 3 main reasons. First, it was easier and cheaper to get loans. Second, the government gave tax breaks and other perks to encourage more building. Third, the whole economy was focused on construction because it created a lot of jobs. This growth was great for most people in Spain, especially since 8 out of 10 people owned their homes and liked seeing their values go up. But like all big booms, it eventually crashed. House prices dropped by almost half, leaving many people owing more money than their homes were worth. When loans became harder to get and everyone got worried, it became clear that building so many houses, thinking prices would always go up, wasn't going to work. Builders who borrowed a lot of money couldn't pay it back, causing big problems for the banks. Spain's first move to fix the crisis was to spend a lot of money to boost the economy, more than any other European country at the time. This was because Spain didn't have a lot of debt before the crisis. But when the economic crisis in Greece got worse, people started worrying about other countries like Spain. But the way its economy worked wasn't great, which made people nervous about whether Spain could keep borrowing money to fix its problems. This situation led to Spain having to rescue its banks and make big changes to its economy. Out of the 45 local banks we talked about before, only 2 made it through the crisis without major problems. To fix the banking system, a lot of banks were combined to form a bad bank. This was a way to separate the risky loans and assets from the parts of the banks that were still doing okay. The crisis hit Spain's economy really hard. Because Spain uses the euro, it couldn't make its currency cheaper to help its businesses compete better. So Spain had to make some really tough changes. These changes led to a lot of people losing their jobs, about 1 out of every 4 people. This caused many people to leave Spain and look for work in other countries. But did Spain really get over this crisis? It's a mix of yes and no. By 2017, Spain's economy was doing better than before the crisis, at least when looking at the total value of everything it produced, GDP. Up until 2020, Spain was also helping the whole Eurozone's economy grow, mainly because it was selling more things to other countries. This improvement was because of a decade of tough reforms, which made it cheaper to hire people in Spain compared to other big countries in Europe. But even with these improvements, Spain's work efficiency is still not as good as in other European countries. On the plus side, Spain's economy had more money coming in than going out in 2016, for the first time since 1986, and this has stayed the same since then. This shows that Spain's economy is growing in a healthier way, but Spain still has some big problems to solve. One of the biggest is that a lot of people can't find jobs. This is partly because it's expensive for companies to hire new workers. The cost of letting workers go, redundancy costs, is really high in Spain, so a lot of jobs are short-term or temporary, which means less job security. This situation has led to a lot of people not having jobs for a long time. Some people think the actual number of unemployed might be different, as some might be working off the books to avoid complicated rules. Another reason for the high unemployment, especially among young people, is that more young people in Spain leave school or training programs early compared to other European countries. These issues became even more noticeable during the COVID-19 pandemic. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, said that Spain's economy shrank more than any other advanced economy during the pandemic. A big reason for this was that the pandemic really hurt Spain's tourism industry. But when you look at France, which gets the most tourists in the world, they didn't have as bad of an economic hit, which makes you wonder about other factors affecting Spain's economy. To understand why Spain's economy shrank more compared to France during the pandemic, we need to look at the types of jobs people have in each country. Spain has a lot of temporary jobs. More than a quarter of all jobs are like this. France, on the other hand, has fewer temporary jobs, about 16%. So, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people with temporary jobs in Spain lost them, which had a big impact on the economy. This shows that Spain is still dealing with problems from its past, especially the big housing market crash. Spain has come a long way from being under a dictatorship to becoming a major economy in Europe. Joining the euro was a big step, but it also contributed to the housing crisis. Before the crisis, Spain didn't have as much government debt as some other countries near the Mediterranean. The bigger issue was how the economy was growing, relying too much on building things and borrowing money. When the crisis happened, private debt became a problem for the whole country. leading to a lot of changes and fixes in how the economy works. Since making these changes, parts of Spain's economy have started doing better, but there are still big challenges. It's hard to say if Spain has completely turned things around, or if it's just starting to recover from the really tough times. Spain's high unemployment rate, particularly among young people, remains a significant concern. The labor market is characterized by a large number of temporary contracts and high redundancy costs, leading to job insecurity and a lack of long-term employment stability. This environment contributes to Spain's historically high unemployment rate, which, despite recent improvements, remains a persistent challenge. Spain still has a problem with too many people, especially young ones, not having jobs. A lot of jobs in Spain are temporary, and it's expensive for companies to let people go. This means people often can't find stable, long-term jobs. Even though things have gotten a bit better, lots of people still can't find work. Another problem is that Spain's schools and training programs don't always match what businesses need. This means young people often leave school without the skills to get good jobs, which isn't great for them or for Spain's economy. Looking forward, Spain has to deal with recovering from the pandemic and also fixing these older problems. It needs to change its job market, schools, and other policies to make the economy stronger and more varied. This is important for Spain to keep growing and be a place where everyone can do well. As Spain tries to make these changes, there are big questions about how well it will do in the long run. Can Spain move to an economy that works better for more people? And how will it handle challenges like not having enough young people because of low birth rates and an aging population? These are important issues for Spain's future. So that wraps up our discussion for today. What are your thoughts on Spain's economy? If you found this video interesting, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it. We'll be back soon.